Welcome to the Salt and Light Serve Spotlight, brought to you by itsonlyhomeschooling.com, a website devoted to advocacy, community, and resources for homeschooling children with learning differences. In this podcast series, we highlight those who embody a servant's heart, individuals and organizations who are changing lives one act of service at a time. Hello everyone, and welcome to our show. My name is Kimberly Bennett, and I am your host. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for giving us a listen. A little bit about me. I am a licensed professional counselor and former middle school guidance counselor turned homeschool mom of one. I am also an advocate for homeschooling children with learning differences. For more of my story and background, feel free to listen to episode 1 or check out my website at itsonlyhomeschooling.com. Appreciating the classics. I love the classics. From music to art to books to movies, the timeless beauty of bygone eras has always fascinated me. So, when it came time to homeschool our one and only kiddo, I naturally gravitated to a classical approach to learning. Classical literature, history curricula with lessons in chronological timeline order, Latin and Greek. Yes, please. I was delighted beyond measure until it came time to teach 2 subjects, art and music. Help for the artistically and musically challenged. My husband is both a mathematician and a musician. He plays baritone and saxophone. I, on the other hand, play the radio. My husband is also a fairly decent artist. He has been since he was a child. One of my favorite anecdotes from my husband's childhood comes from my sweet mother-in-law, and it goes a little something like this. Chris, my husband's younger brother, is speaking to my mother-in-law when he walks up to her and says, "Mom, can you draw me a dog?" My mother-in-law then grabs a sheet of paper and a pencil and makes her best attempt at drawing a dog. Once finished, she proudly hands the scribble over to her youngest son. Wide-eyed and bewildered, her second-born glances several times from the paper in his hands back to his mom's face. Paper to mom, mom to paper. Without saying a word, he turns and walks over to his older brother, my husband, and asks, "Rob, will you draw me a dog?" I have never related to my mother-in-law more deeply. If stick figures could be offended, I would be the one to offend them. Thank heavens for music and art teachers. In honor of Classical Music Month this September, we are delighted to showcase a homeschool resource that makes teaching music and art a breeze. We are honored to shine our September Salt and Light Serve Spotlight on Jus Classical. Jus Classical is the brainchild of Christian homeschool mom of 3, Justina Thurston, a talented artist, musician, former Classical Conversations tutor and director, blogger, digital content creator, and music therapist. Music and art for your homeschool. Teaching your child music and art has never been easier. Join the Jus Classical Fine Arts membership today to help your child learn music and art in a fun and engaging way. JusClassical.com. The Jus Classical difference. Jus Classical is not your average fine arts resource. There are no dreary lectures here. Justina's lessons are all about fun. Clothed in colorful costumes complete with accents, Justina transforms into Dutch artist Rembrandt as the host for her art education videos and into German Baroque composer George Friedrich Handel as host for her music education videos. Told in first-person point of view, Justina brings classical composers and artists to life, inviting audiences to join her on a journey of history, beauty, faith, humor, and fun. Drawing on her music therapy background, Justina captivates audiences, young and old alike, with her music education series, Making Music with Handel. In her Drawing with Rembrandt series, she encourages even those like me with the most rudimentary of drawing skills to dig deep, find our buried courage, and awaken the artist within. In her Art and Music Appreciation Education series, The Artist Detective and The Composer Detective, she appeals to our inner sleuths as she takes us on an educational time warp adventure. Learning has never been more engaging or fun. Embodying appreciation and encouraging active participation, Justina endeavors to make art and music education accessible to all homeschoolers. Today, we chat with the founder of Jus Classical, Justina Thurston, about her work. Let's listen. Well, good morning and welcome to the Salt and Light Serve Spotlight. Today, I have with me Justina Thurston of Jus Classical. Justina is a musician, video and course creator, and songwriter. She has a degree in music therapy and has worked as an early childhood music teacher for over 20 years. At her church, she also helps with the music ministry, playing oboe in the orchestra and teaching Sunday school to early elementary aged children using her Westminster Shorter Catechism songs. Justina is also a blessed wife and homeschooling mom of 3. At Jus Classical, she seeks to encourage other homeschool moms and families, especially in focusing on Christ, making memorization painless through music, and enjoying great art and classical music through her courses, like the Composer Detective and the Jus Classical Fine Arts Membership. Justina is also the host of the Music and Art Homeschool Summit. Well, good morning and welcome, Justina.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I'm so excited. My son and I will have to say we love your videos on YouTube, and we cannot wait to take your courses. We're going to start with the composers this year. So we cannot wait to do the Composer Detective course and then tell everyone all about it.
Oh,
But
wonderful.
today, I was hoping that you could give our listeners a little bit of a brief background on your experience as a homeschool parent and a homeschool working parent, and what led you to create Jus Classical.
So I always wanted to homeschool even before I was married because I knew families who homeschooled, including some siblings. And so when my husband and I got married, he's actually a former teacher. He's retired. He was
Oh,
in the public school system, and he knew he also wanted our kids to be homeschooled because he saw what is in the schools, and it's even worse today. So, we knew we were going
yeah.
to homeschool from the beginning, and I was already an early childhood music teacher. So I took my children to
Mm.
music classes that I was teaching. So I say that they've had music since they were in the womb, right? Because I was teaching those classes then. And so like you read in my biography, I'm a music therapist was my background. And then I became an early childhood music educator and had my own business doing that for a while, even before I was married. And then, of course, it just all flowed into my children's education. And so I know that music is such a great tool for learning things. And I noticed that my oldest daughter was really good at memorizing things and she loved to sing all the time. She was memorizing The Cat in the Hat because she was listening to an audiobook of it over and over during her kind of afternoon quiet time when she was outgrowing naps. And I saw how easily she was memorizing things, and I wanted her to be able to memorize more important things than the cat in the hat. And I knew music was a great
Mm-hmm.
tool. And I heard about classical conversations and how you give them a foundation of memory work to begin with. And
Mm-hmm.
so I also had a friend who was already in it, and her daughter was singing these catchy songs. And I said, well, what a great way to learn. And so we became part of classical conversations. We were part of it for 8 years. And so I did a lot of different things in my roles with classical conversations. And that was the beginning of my children's education. We don't do it anymore, but I still use a lot of their ideas and principles. So that is kind of our background of getting into homeschooling and classical conversations. Uh,
No, that's okay. That's good. How did we love CC as well. We've never been officially a CC family, but I love the songs. We use them in sort of mashup learning incorporated into our other history and other parts of our other curriculum. But we love CC.
yeah, well,
So how
regardless
did
of
Just
CC,
Classic Oh,
yeah,
no, please go
regardless of
ahead.
CC,
Sorry.
music is a really great tool for learning things and memorizing things. So
Yes.
that's a big part of what I like to get people involved in music that way. So,
And it's true. I mean, if we think about it, you can remember, I can remember double mint commercials from my childhood.
right,
So if something that is that simple can get, kind of that earworm caught in your brain for a tool for learning, and it's fun. Kids love to sing, and music
right.
affects our emotions. So why not? Yes, why not make learning fun? Well, Justina, can you tell us what inspired you to create your courses?
Well, it was because I was in classical conversations. And in the early years, what they call foundations, they do 6 week units on 4 different areas of art and music. And so they have a drawing unit, a tin whistle unit, a classical composers and orchestra unit, and great artists unit. And they were only 6 weeks. So it's kind of this flyover of these different areas.
Mm.
And so it's good because it exposes the kids to those areas, right? But then I always felt like we didn't go deep enough. And so I also, in classical conversations, one year, one of the directors asked me if I would write some artist skits to introduce the kids to the artist so they'd hear their biography a little before they did the art project. And that's not something classical conversation really suggests you do, but the director just thought it would be a good idea for the kids to know a little about these artists. And so I wrote these skits and I played some of the parts. I had other moms play the parts and just be the artist and give the biography. And, it's just a little more engaging when you hear somebody tell their own story. So I decided that, well, actually, the families were really enjoying them. So I decided that it would be good if I could make these into videos and share them on YouTube. And so I got costumes and I dressed up as all the characters. I'm every single
You're
artist and composer.
awesome.
And I just thought there's maybe a humorous element to that as well. Maybe not for some people, but it was supposed to be kind of funny that I'm actually everybody. And so then I made these videos of the artists interacting. And so I made Rembrandt be the main character who interviews the other artists. And then for my music videos, I made George Friedrich Handel be the main interviewer, the main guide. And so I just did that so people could find more information on these artists. And then, of course, I turned it into the composers as well. And then over time, I thought, okay, this would make really fun courses where I can
Mm-hmm.
give them not just the video of the biography, but ways to interact with the information as well. And maybe a portfolio of some of the artworks of the artists and a playlist. I do it on YouTube, a YouTube playlist of the music of some of the composers. And that way, people are exposed to the music of those composers as well. But by doing it on YouTube, they get to hear great orchestras and they
Mm-hmm.
get to see the conductors. They get to hear great performers. Even, there are some YouTube videos that I include of performers who are no longer alive. And so you get exposed to all kinds of areas of the music, and then of course portfolios with the art. So I wanted to make it a deeper dive into some of the things that people in classical conversations were already learning. And I knew it would be beneficial to families whether they were in classical conversations or not, because art and music
Mm-hmm.
enrich our lives, and they also teach history, and they teach culture and worldview and all kinds of things that are beneficial to our kids. So they can be integrated with the other subjects as well. So that's where I got the ideas and some of the motivation behind making those courses.
Well, the courses, look, we've seen a few of the videos on YouTube, but the actual courses look beyond fun and engaging, and they look very open and go. Like, I don't have a music background, and so I joke in my house that I play the radio really well. I can play FM and XM, and occasionally,
Yeah.
I can ask Google to play a tune. And my husband's a musician, well, he's an engineer, but he plays an instrument. He at least has been trained in it. So for me to teach that type of subject to my son is incredibly intimidating. So to have something like your courses is a godsend for parents like me who are very challenged when it comes to this.
Right. So that was kind of my intention, because when I was in classical conversations, what they do is they have one tutor teach all the subjects, whether they feel comfortable in all those subjects or not. And so one of the units that we could have more of an expert, so to speak, in was the orchestra unit. And so they would let somebody lead that for the whole community at the time. I don't know that they do anymore. And so they asked me to lead that. And it is very helpful if you have a background in music to be able to lead something like that. And so many of the other moms were so
Mm-hmm.
thankful that I would do that, the other tutors, because they just didn't feel comfortable. And when you have somebody who has a passion for the subject teaching it, then the other people, or the kids, I should say, can gain some of that passion and enthusiasm as well. Whereas if it's a difficult subject, like if I teach science, then my kids are going to be totally bored with science, because I'm not terribly excited about science myself. And so it's hard to spread enthusiasm to them.
It's true.
So that's why it's fun for someone with a passion for music or art to be teaching it. And so I was able to do that for my community. And so that's what I wanted to share with other people in my courses as well, as you don't have to have a music background. If you've only ever played the radio, like you said, then this is something that either Rembrandt or George Friedrich Handel is going to guide your family through. And you're going to have that confidence that, yes, you can just play the next video or follow. I do have lesson plans in my courses, but you can follow along the lesson plans and know which video to watch or which activities to do. And so it gives you the confidence in being able to do it, because it's right there for you, even though you don't have the background in it.
And for parents like me, that is incredibly comforting. Well, Justina, I feel like your courses fill a gap that we see so often in the education community, whether it's public education, private education, or in our case, homeschooling, especially, where the arts are often taught as an afterthought, if they're taught at all. Yet at the same time, it's this conflict where I feel like they're so very much important. We need courses like yours out there to give parents that confidence so that they can take and run with it. How do you feel like your course is helping bridge that gap?
Right. So it's true. We are focused on STEM in our world, right? Science,
Mm-hmm.
technology, engineering, math. And then shortly after they called it STEM, they started calling it STEAM. So they added A for
Mm-hmm.
arts. And partly because
Mm-hmm.
they were finding you need creativity to get all the other technology things
Mm-hmm.
going. So creativity is really important, even in all the technology. But I believe that music and art are essential parts of education and of being human, because they enrich our lives in so many ways. That's the human part, right? But they
Yes.
also enhance
Mm-hmm.
education in so many ways. And so, yeah, I know that a lot of times we have money and we for our math and our science and our reading and writing, and we have limited money to go for our curriculum. And so that's why I think a lot of times the arts does get pushed to the side, and we're like, well, we'll just check out some books from the library or some CDs or go on YouTube. And those are all great places. And as homeschool moms, we love to research things and find them on our own.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't know what we're looking for. And sometimes we lose steam, right? And so my courses kind of fill in that gap to give you what you need. As we said before, kind of plug and play. There's a guide there in the lesson plans and in the characters of Rembrandt and George Friedrich Handel. And so that's kind of where I fill in the gap for those who just want their kids to have music and art and don't have the background in it, and can afford to pay a little something. And honestly, the price of my courses or other courses like mine are not that much compared to private lessons or private music lessons or private art lessons. And there's something the whole family can do together. So it's just enriching your lives as well as developing your kids' brains in a lot of ways. So that's kind of where my courses fill in for those things.
Oh, I completely agree. They're accessible to you. Not only is it, well, I have one child, but if you have more than one, just the cost of, for the cost of what your one course is, I don't think you could get 1 month of music lessons for one child, much less music appreciation. My son attends a summer camp every summer where it's a little bit of music and a little bit of art abbreviation. But for that 1 week of camp where we allow him to go in summer for one child is still more expensive than one of your courses would be. So either
Okay.
way, the value for your course is, oh my goodness, it sounds like you could have easy, you could do it for a semester, you could have this for an entire year, but more than just the cost for one child, you can use this for an entire family. I'm
Right.
unusual that I have one child as a homeschool family, but usually homeschool families have so many more. So
Right.
it's definitely worth the value.
Right. And then my special twist in my courses is that I dress up as the characters. And so you feel like you're engaging with history and
Mhm.
the composer or the artist too. So it makes it really fun for families.
It does. It absolutely does. I know we cannot wait to go through the course. Well, Justina, you and I both share similar backgrounds. We're kind of sisters in arms, if you will. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and you are actually a music therapist. When you go to your website, justclassical.com, you will find on your blog where there's several different articles where you are giving testimony to the power of music and how it can boost the brain with music education, the importance of including music in your homeschool, and how it even impacts child development. I know as a mom of a special needs learner the power of music that we have experienced in our home. My son participates through our occupational therapist in something called therapeutic listening. And I can tell you the power of music has helped with handwriting. It has helped with PE, believe it or not, with his ability to be more coordinated and more balanced, but it has also helped with his mood. Can you speak to our listeners about the power of music and how it can impact learning?
Right. So as you mentioned, I have a background in music therapy, and so I have gotten to watch how music can impact lives. And when I did work in music therapy for a few years, and then there were a few years after that I got into early childhood music education, and I actually really loved the curriculum that I started using. It's called Music Garden, and because it basically had some of the same things as the music therapy, where when you're a music therapist, you have goals for your clients and you measure the goals and you work on meeting them through music
Mm-hmm.
application.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what the early childhood music did as well. So as I mentioned, I even taught these early childhood music classes when my kids were in the womb. And so they were exposed to it all the way. So music is important in enhancing our children's development because there are musical stages that perfectly correlate with the different stages of our children's development. So in the womb, our
Really?
kids can hear. That's one of the very early things that develops, the first sensory organ to develop. And
Hmm.
I believe it's like 20 days that the ear is starting to develop. Let me see if I can remember or find where I wrote that. You might have to edit this part. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Well, that also makes me think linked to the ear. Now, remember, my background is just eyebrows up with the brain, but linked to the ear is your vestibular system
Right.
and your sense of balance and coordination. So, yeah, I can see how those two would go together. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the womb, they can hear, they recognize their mother's voice. And then once they're born, their eyes are still not focused. You know how babies are not very focused right when they're first born. And so they're
Yes.
hearing the voice and they're comforted by their mother's voice. Maybe their father's voice too, but I think it's stronger, of course, with the mother. And then you'll notice that
Mhm.
steady beat things really calm a baby down. So they were used to hearing their mother's breathing and heartbeat, which are steady beat. And so they hear those. And then, like you said, the ear is not just for hearing, but for vestibular. And so that balance.
Mhm.
And so the first thing in development is listening and the ear. And then the next thing is movement because they are so intimately attached to each other. So then, of
I
course, music enhances both. Music is about listening, uh, and it's sound,
Mhm.
right? I should say music is sound. And so listening is what we do, right? And then music inspires us to move. And so you'll see kids doing that little bouncy thing when they hear a steady beat when they get to a certain age, toddlers.
Yes.
And so then after that, they're going to start having some language skills, and music imitates language skills. There's pauses, there's kind of questions in the phrasing of music, and there's call and response and things like that in music that imitate language. And music has its
That's
own
true.
language with the solfege, is what we call it, with pitches in the scale, or a rhythm language. There's different rhythms that are like a language. So music enhances language development. And then next, of course, are social skills, where kids are learning to interact with other kids, and music can enhance that. It can bring out a really positive way of interacting socially with an ensemble, like singing rounds and having to hold your own part while listening to another part, um, or taking turns, because a lot of music, especially if you watch an orchestra or a band, um, not all of the instruments play at the same time. Sometimes they do, but there's parts where
That's true.
certain there's a solo or a small ensemble of brass, let's say, playing together while the strings and the woodwinds are resting. And so you bring out different parts. And so it's just this beautiful social, uh, not experiment, but social way of interacting together. So music enhances that social development.
Mhm.
And then, of course, music, the next stage that we talk about with kids' development is emotional. And so kids are learning to express
Mm.
themselves in an appropriate way. And music can help be that outlet. It can be comforting to us. We know that as adults, that music is also comforting. And I know you were talking about music emotionally for your son, is calming when he
Yes.
needs to be calm. And so we all know that can help
Mhm.
emotionally. And then the last part of development is cognitive development. And so music just enhances that. And in music, we've got reading and writing and creativity and composing music. So it's also enhancing that cognitive development as well. So that's just early childhood development. And then, of course, academically, we're boosting the brain, as I talked about, reading and
Mhm.
writing, and so the language processing. But then thinking about math, music is mathematical. We're counting all the time, and
It is.
with notes, they're based off of a whole note, which is 4 counts. And so if you divide up that whole note, then you get fractions. So you've got quarter notes
That's
and eighth
true.
notes and 16th notes. And half notes. I should have said that one first. But, basically as you learn to count music and read music, you're doing fractions in your head and you're keeping a steady beat. And so it's very mathematical. And then it's helping us with analysis and critical thinking and reasoning, because it's an expressive means. Music is expressive. So, and then of course, music helps with memorization. The best way to memorize something is to a song, right? The ABCs.
That's
So
true.
all these different things, I could go on and on probably, but these are some of the ways that music boosts the brain, helps with development. And so, yes, it's going to help our children in every area.
It does. It absolutely does. And I learned so many things about that today that I didn't realize. Since I'm not someone who's strong in music, I'm like, oh yeah, it is mathematical if you think about it.
Yeah.
But then again, I play the radio, so I'm grateful for people like you. Be sure to join us on Wednesday, September 27th for part 2 of our interview with Justina. Love to read? Wish you could glean some advice from some other seasoned moms? Maybe even some homeschool moms? Check out the newest series, sponsored by It's Only Homeschooling, Shelf Indulgence Book Chats. In this series, we chat with moms of faith who also happen to be authors. Join us on October 4th when we chat with podcaster, author, and homeschool speaker Melanie Brown about her journey on book series. Book 1, Challenges Won't Stop Me, an interactive survival guide for overcoming and thriving, and her upcoming release, Book 2, Keep Moving Forward. New episodes air on the first Wednesday of every month, exclusively on the It's Only Homeschooling YouTube channel. Know of an amazing human working to make their community a better place? Reach out and let us know. We would love to feature them on one of our shows. With the It's Only Homeschooling podcast, we invite your family to join ours for life lessons beyond the classroom. Through our Salt and Light Serve Spotlight series, we hope to inspire others to answer the call of service. We hope you'll make us one of your regular stops along the way in your homeschool adventures. Remember, education is a journey, not a destination. Until we meet again, take a deep breath and relax. It's only homeschooling.
Playing show and tell, who will keep you safe?